Good afternoon. It is Thursday, October 1st. It's good to be with you again. I came across this story. I want to share that story with you. There's a story about a farmer who also worked as a factory laborer and served as a country pastor on the side. He worked hard and he lived simply and loved his family, and he was a good neighbor as well. He farmed a small hill farm and raised beef and some grain for feed. And in the summer, his grandchildren would come and they would bale hay and fish the pond. They'd eat sweet corn and garden ripe tomatoes. When harvest time came, he would piece together his old one-row corn picker and oil it up for the season. And it had seen many seasons. He pulled it behind a little Ford tractor and hooked a wagon on the back. It was a noisy contraption, unlike those huge modern green monsters you see shaving the grain off wide flat fields in wide gulps these days. His whole operation was like that. It was basic. His life was like that too. He worked hard, he helped others, and you could count on him to keep his promises. That's what made it so hard one autumn, when time and responsibilities and difficult circumstances closed in on him. He needed to harvest a few acres of his own corn. He also promised to harvest a few ribbons of corn that wound around the hills on a friend's farm as well. Problems came. First, equipment trouble. Usually he was able to fabricate something or rig the equipment so the job could be done. But after he had harvested his own corn, his little corn picker coughed, sputtered, and quit. It was out of use until a special part came from distant lands, and that would be too late to help this year. The equipment problem was followed by a time problem. The factory had orders to fill and began to require overtime. He was leaving the farm before light and arriving home after dark. He sat at the kitchen table and nursed a cup of awful coffee while he wondered aloud what to do. His wife said that there was simply nothing he could do. He would have to tell his friend that he couldn't help with his corn. He thought long, and the idea didn't sit well with him. His friend was depending on him. If you don't have the equipment, you just can't do it, his wife said. Well, I could do it the way we used to do it. I could harvest it by hand. You don't have time to do that with the overtime. Besides, it would be dark, his wife said. So he consulted the farmer's almanac. Late in October, there would be another full moon. It is called the harvest moon, because it gives farmers more light and increases their harvest time. So he thought, if the Lord gives us clear weather, I think I can do it. And he did. The weather was cold and clear, and the moon was brilliant. After work, he made his way to the field, and his wife met him in the truck with dinner and a thermos of more of the awful, strong black coffee. Then he worked through the night to keep his word. Well, that's a neat story for this time of year, especially today, as tonight we will be seeing a full moon. And not just any full moon, but what is known as the harvest moon, which comes once a year, either in September or early October. And it's referred to as the harvest moon because it's when the moonrise comes soon after sunset that results in an abundance of bright moonlight early in the evening, which was, by the way, a traditional aid to farmers and crews harvesting their summer-grown crops, which is why it's called the harvest moon. And so tonight, hopefully, we'll be able to see that full moon without too much cloud cover. Hopefully we have a clear night. But that's just another fascinating fact of God's creation. Have you recently spent time outside looking up at the night sky, unhurried, just to take in the awesome sight? And to consider how wonderful, how magnificent, how awesome, how beyond our comprehension God is. And feeling the overwhelming sense of his power. And then come to the conclusion that it would take more faith to believe that everything just came to be out of a simple bang. I love the words of Psalm 8. David writes these words, and it seems he's been looking into the night sky and considering the heavens. And he puts into words the psalm of the awe he feels. And he gets some perspective that overwhelms him. He looks up and there's no light pollution, and he can't hold back his praise. Lord, our Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth. You have set your glory in the heavens. How great, how awesome. There is nothing that can even come close to capturing who you are, David writes. When you contemplate the earth and the moon, your first response is not about us. Our first response is hopefully about God. And this earth is just a really tiny planet in a vast solar system. And the solar system is just part of a small part of the galaxy. And our galaxy is just one of 100 billion such galaxies in the universe. Just imagine. And so in verses 3 and 4 of Psalm 8, we read David writing, "When I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have set in place, what is humanity that you are mindful of him? Human beings that you care for them." I mean, that's the thought process that you go through as you grasp the enormity of what God has created. Who are we? We're nothing. We're small. We're definitely not the center of the universe. But God is. And so tonight, if you get a chance, go outside and spend some time gazing at the full moon. Again, hopefully it's not too overcast. Perhaps even read Psalm 8 before you go outside. Or have the Bible in your hand, or perhaps have that passage on your phone. And then sense God's majesty and greatness. The Lord bless you and keep you.